Okay. Oh, 66 people are already there. Very good. ये जो यहाँ चल रहा है ये वहां दिखाई दे रहा होगा ना?
अभी आपको देखना है तो मैं दिखा सकता हूँ थोड़ी देर में। आप अनम्यूट होना सर एक बार।
हाँ जी।
हाँ ठीक है, दिखा रहा हूँ। ये रहा सर।
हाँ, फर्स्ट क्लास।
ठीक है सर।
अभी थोड़ी देर मैं भी बंद कर रहा हूँ।
Good afternoon, Mr. Anurag.
Good afternoon, Meg.
We'll be starting sharp at 4. We are waiting for the other speakers to join in as well.
Sounds good. And how long the session is for? 1 hour?
Yeah, this one is for 1 hour.
My video is working, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can see you clearly.
Perfect.
Very good afternoon, Mr. Hitesh Arora. Welcome. Mr. Arora, are you able to hear us? We can see you for sure, but I think you are on mute, sir.
Just a second. Yeah.
Yeah,
very
perfect,
good
sir.
Yeah, it's okay.
Very good
now?
afternoon, sir.
Yeah,
Yes, sir,
welcome,
yes, sir, yes.
welcome, Hitesh ji. Good afternoon. Naveen Seth from PhD, sir. Thank you very much for joining and the support you have provided to us, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. I
Thank
think
you.
my voice and picture is clear.
Yeah, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Good afternoon, Aditya ji.
Good afternoon, Ji. Great to see you.
Very good
Good to
afternoon,
see
sir.
you, sir, after a long time.
Aha, Ji. If you send more invites, I'll be clearly there.
Yeah, sure. I recall last time was when we had done that international week. So one of the days you were one of the speakers.
Yes, yes. Yeah. And by the way, we had done that wonderful session on NFT and crypto.
Yes. That also.
Our speaker, by the way, Anshuman is now has just raised millions and millions of dollars for his NFT cricket venture. They have an exclusive contract with CCI.
Oh, wow.
So you should. So I thought it'd be a nice close of
really,
the round trip on that.
Really nice, yeah.
And if I'm moderating G very quickly, I just want to make sure the speaker list hasn't changed.
No, it hasn't changed, sir. It's still the same.
And everybody is joining.
Everybody is joining. Yeah, we're just waiting for. Hitesh ji has already joined, sir.
Brilliant. Great to see you.
Mr. Anurag is also here, sir.
Mr. Anurag is also there.
Apollo.
Wonderful. Let me make sure I have it.
Welcome, Mr. Rao. Thank you very much for joining, sir. You are on mute, sir.
Oh, my pleasure, and a very good afternoon to everyone here.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Mr. Bose, good afternoon and welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you.
Very good afternoon, sir. It's really nice to see that we have mix of people coming in from different sectors altogether. So it's going to be quite an interesting affair altogether, I believe.
I hope so, G. My worry as moderator is my time limit is very strict.
Yes.
So
Absolutely. That is what you would have to really.
I could have done a 1 hour session with each person and still not gotten.
Very true.
But we'll try to keep it moving along as
sure.
One major question, I think, and then we'll try to keep it moving along.
Mayank, I think you can stop the sharing so that everybody can see each other.
Surely, sir.
Hitesh ji, it's wonderful to have somebody from the government on this sort of panel. Normally, we get so stuck on the private sector, especially when it comes to HR, that
Thank you.
we tend to forget the highly sophisticated back end that the government has developed. So it'll be great to hear your thoughts.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the opportunity. Rather, we are glad that despite of being into government also and other parties being into the education and then technical education. So we have different challenges, and I hope we'll learn a lot with this interaction, and there'll be a lot of things which will come out with the discussions here.
Wonderful, Ji.
Welcome, Mr. Bhatnagar. Thank you very much for joining, sir.
Aji, highlight view.
So we can't hear you.
That's good. Yeah, test ho gaya.
Thank you. Singh Sahab, good afternoon. Thank you for joining, sir.
Namaskar, namaskar ji.
Namaskar, sir.
Sanjay Ji has joined. Fantastic.
Welcome, Dr. Jitendra.
Yeah, good afternoon, Jay. Good evening to all our distinguished panelists. Namaskar, Mr. R.P. Singh, our chair for HRIR committee, and all our distinguished panelists and speakers for this session. Thank you very much for your presence.
Anurag Ji, could you turn on your video just so we know it's working? Because it's got 2 minutes to go. I think Mr. Prem Singh has also arrived.
Welcome, Mr. Prem Singh.
Welcome, Prem Singh Ji.
Good
Thank you for your presence.
Good evening, sir. Thank
Thanks
you for joining, sir.
everyone. Good evening. Good evening. Hi.
Thank you. Welcome, Ms. Simin. Thank you very much for joining, ma'am.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
Hello, good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. Thank you very much.
Hello, Simin. How are you?
Hi, Trendy. How are you?
Good. Happy New Year, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Same
Thank you.
to
Same to
you.
you.
We are meeting for the first time in New Year.
Now in this COVID time, we have to say Happy New Year every week. You know,
Yeah.
So we have a blend of CHROs on this platform today, and in fact, a very historical moment for all of us. People are all domain experts and think tank in HR field, and I'm sure the today's deliberation will definitely carve out new ways, new methods and new processes by which each and everyone will be actually able to, sharpen their HRIR processes. In fact, indeed, it's a pleasure for all of us for having you on this platform.
Thank you very much for organizing this, Dr. Singh. You have been doing a phenomenal job, and it's always good to be in your company and in the company of all the stalwarts on this session.
Just to brief you all that we have this session, we have part 2 panel discussions we have put. The first session will be on the future of remote working, and Shri Aditya Barlia ji would be moderating that session for us. Second session will be on innovative technology and HR with Dr. Runa Maitra ji. She will be joining soon and she will be moderating that part. So this is how we have just structured this webinar for today. And we have the audience in the platform which we have joined. Mayank, I'll just request if you can show that auditorium so that we could know, because what I saw last, we had almost 90 plus people already online. So yeah, 89 are already there. So this is how the audience will be looking at us. So a lot of questions which are coming already there with us. So we will be sharing that with the moderator so that he can ask each panelist the questions. So I think Dr. Jitendra, as the first session we have Dr. Runa Maitra is there.
Yeah.
Welcome, Dr. Maitra.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I think, sir, we have all the panelists for the session 1, so we can start. So just wanted to give an update that Mr. Pradeep Multani, our president, is stuck because there is a meeting going on with the Honorable Minister, with Smriti Irani ji.
Yes.
So the moment that gets over, he will join this session. So in his absence, on behalf of PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry, I welcome you all for this important session, which is CHRO Conclave, Future of Remote Working, which is actually become in the last 2 years very actively. And we have all the domain experts from different fields in this who will be sharing their views and all with us. So I will not take much of your time. So I will request Shri R.P. Singh, the chair of our HRIR committee of PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry, to give his opening remarks, please.
Thank you very much. You see, when we come to talk about the future of remote working, I think that is already a foregone conclusion that remote working is going to stay and going to increase. So I'm not going to talk about the future of remote working. I think different aspects of remote working will be discussed by the distinguished participants and the faculty members here. So my concern would be how this is going to affect and what are the tools that we need to use for future remote working. Of course, there are certain areas, and I also come from one of those sectors, and that is manufacturing sector, where remote working is not all that possible. And there are other areas also like loading, unloading, construction work, physical deliveries. These are the areas which will continue to be in the domain of physical work. Rest, of course, the IT and finance and other sectors that will be working on remote basis. There are certain advantages of working remote. You have cost advantages, you have commuting advantage, you have all sorts of accommodation, office and other things advantage. But what I really am worried is that in the whole process, we have to learn how to get used to this remote working. Because right now, the challenge that I'm facing here is that for 3 days or 2 days, people are coming to office, and for 2 or 3 days, they are working from home. And when they are working from home, this is my practical difficulty that I'm facing here, that when I call for a person, then they say that he or she is today working from home. So I don't know, then I have to remind them that he or she is working from home, is not on leave. So you see, the mindset is still there, that people feel that, okay, working from home means doing something and not doing everything. So there, of course, the technology has to be leveraged, and we have to change the mindset of the people. Then I find that the entire paradigm with reference to the performance management has to change. Earlier, one of the important factors that we had in performance management is how punctual he is and how long he works in office. I mean, there are organizations where time is not important, deliverance is important, but there are organizations where time also matters. But now I think with the remote working, what will be, I mean, the whole performance management system will have to be redesigned to be based on delivery and not on the basis of time spent. Then the other aspect that I think we need to address is what are the tools that would improve our remote working. So I would expect the experts sitting here to enlighten people about the various latest tools that would be helpful in remote working. And with this, I think I would hand over the baton to Mr. Seth to take the session on. I'm happy to see here my friend Prem Singh ji, and of course the distinguished members are there. And all the best, and thank you from my side. I welcome all of you to the chamber and express my sincere thanks for sparing your valuable time. I look forward to getting something for me also to take away, because as a manufacturing person, you know, we are supposed to be delivering almost 1 crore tons of fertilizer, which is 20 crore bags of 50 kg all over the country. And all that has to be done physically. So there are certain areas where remote working is not a possibility. But having said that, I thank all of you here and would now request the
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir, for setting the agenda for today's session. And we thank our webinar partners, APJ Satya Group, for supporting this event, and also Aries Communications. Thank you very much for the support you have been providing. And a special thanks to the Haryana State Board of Technical Education for rendering their support to this event. And I can see Ms. Aparna Dhingra also, she has joined. Thank you very much, ma'am, for joining.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so thank you. So to proceed further, I would now like to invite Shri Prem Singh Ji, the group CHRO from JK organization, to give his special address to us. So just for the benefit of all, Shri Prem Singh Ji is the graduate in mechanical engineering, postgraduate in management from IIT Delhi, and in the field of HR for the past 30 years, out of which 27 years in India and 3 years outside India. He is now working as the president group HR at JK organization. Prior to this, worked with Wokhard as president, global HR, previous assignments with Piramal Enterprises, SR Group, Owens Corning India, JCB India, etc. He has globally well-traveled, worked with more than a dozen nationalities across cultures in Indian, American, and European companies across industry structures. So I invite Shri Prem Singh Ji.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Glad to be in the company of a lot of stalwarts, experts. And my compliments to the PSD CCI and the organizing team for having put together a very relevant topic, very relevant subject at the right time. Well, we have seen remote working more so in the last 2 years. But let me talk about one major change which has happened in last 2 years. You know, post Cold War and somewhere in 1987, this world was coined called VUCA world. And last 40 years, we all have been talking about VUCA world. But 2 years ago, VUCA world has gone through substantial change. It's not a VUCA world alone. It's now what is being called as a bunny world. And let me just elaborate. Bunny, B-A-N-I, B stands for brittle, A stands for anxious, N stands for non-linear, and I stands for incomprehensible. And let me just go into the details. You know, in VUCA world, we were always saying that it's volatile, you know, and things are very volatile. Well, today, it's not volatile anymore. The dimension, the degree has gone probably not 10x, probably 100x. And that's why it's being called as brittle, extremely brittle. When things just collapse, system just collapse. And this is what we saw 2 years ago when the pandemic just hit all of us. People don't feel uncertain anymore. They feel anxious because there is so much which is happening all over. And it's extremely hard to predict the cause and effect relationship. And therefore, there is what is called as non-linearity. And all this is happening in such a fast pace, causing so much of disruption all over, extremely difficult to comprehend, extremely difficult to predict, and extremely difficult to imagine what is going to happen next, and therefore incomprehensible. So in a nutshell, what we are living through today is no longer VUCA world anymore. It is actually a bunny world. We are in that state now. But the great story is, the great news is, and as they say that every crisis brings something good, brings a positive side with it. As human beings, since we are always learning and relearning and also unlearning, we have learned quite a lot. at a very rapid pace, we went into remote working. We went into work from home mode, and very quickly we were able to organize ourselves in a manner that we kept the businesses going. Talking about the reality today, as Dr. Singh mentioned in his note, and the organizer mentioned in his opening address this afternoon, remote working, and by the way, this is where I have a slight difference of opinion. It's not remote working which is going to stay. It is hybrid working which is going to stay. Remote working will be a part of it, but will it be remote working alone? To me, that's very highly unlikely. What we are going to see for sure is a hybrid working, a combination of on-site and remote working, and we have seen it all. But the fundamental question that arises is, how do you make sure that the remote working or the hybrid working is effective enough? You know, a lot of companies, I remember, and I wouldn't take the names of those companies, about 1.5 years ago, they were very quick to make a comment that 3/4 of our employees will be working from home. Some companies declared 2/3 of our employees will be working from home. So many companies were just in rush of making those kind of predictions and declarations. Very soon, many of those companies did realize that probably that was an overstretch. That was too bold a statement made too early, or working from home was being over-celebrated too soon. And that's where I want to talk about two distinct features of hybrid working, and in particular, remote working. You know, remote working, the positive side is it brings down the distances. It connects people at different geographies in different time zones with very high degree of ease without any hassle. That's a bright side. It's cost effective. That's a bright side. It's efficient. That's a bright side. It's productive. People don't while away their time. It's on dot. It is supposed to be more efficient in terms of time and resources. But let's also look at the other side. As they say, that all that glitters is not the gold by itself. You know, we have seen, and I'm sure many of my colleagues on this panel would agree with me, we have seen the negative side of remote working or the working from home. Just imagine those professionals, you know, both the spouses working together, parents living together, the children living together, large families, and all of these factors being managed from within the confines of home, four walls of home. Is it easy? Answer is no. Number two, just imagine a cycle. You just get into a Zoom call in the morning, continues throughout the day in the Zoom calls or MS Team calls, and continue till late in the evening hours. And predictability of the calls or the Zoom calls or whatever you have comes down drastically. And when your people call you, at times there is an assumption, yaar ghar pe hi to hai, call to le hi lega, ya call to le hi legi. There is nothing happening. He or she should be able to take calls. But is it so easy? I know many people would confide by saying that work from home is not all that easy. It takes a toll on your mental health. It takes a toll on in terms of relationships within the family members. It takes a toll on your space between personal time versus office time. The boundaries between your personal space and official space just comes down. It becomes extremely challenging to manage that. I would like to share some examples from my own organization. Last year, we conducted a survey when the wave one was just getting over and the things were getting back to normal. So a lot of people said that, look, a lot of youngsters have got habituated to work from home. So let them allow work from home, those who want to go into that mode. So let us resort to some kind of a hybrid working. And what we said, rather than assuming that the youngsters would want to work from home, let us conduct a survey as to what people felt during their time when they were working from home. How did they feel? How did their family members feel? What were their reaction? What were their experiences? And whether moving forward, would they be happy to continue working from home forever? And we conducted that survey. To our surprise, 62% people, and I repeat, 62% people said they would not like to work only from home. Majority of them said at best, they would like a situation in which there is a combination of working from home and work from office. And that brought us to a conclusion that at the end of the day, people like to interact with people. People like to relate with their colleagues. They like to socialize. They like to intermingle. They like to connect with the people at the end of the day. And that brings to the fundamental point of social, emotional, or affiliation needs the human beings have. I think we all have realized that those are fundamental needs. Second point, when you are working from home, there are issues around data security, about the information security. So there are challenges that one needs to anticipate and manage about the data and the information of the organization. Third point, how do you, when the people are working from home, when people are in hybrid mode, some working from home, some working from office, how do you make sure that as a leader, you are able to connect with them, manage their work, plan their work, and appraise them effectively and objectively? These are all real issues. Finally, how do you make sure that the lessons which are being learned, after all, it's an experiment which we are all going through, and we are all evolving, we are all learning our own lessons. How do you ensure that these lessons which are being learned are being captured and are being put to use, so that next, if there is any such crisis that hits the organization or social system, we are better prepared? I think these are all very important questions. I'm very glad that the PSDCCI has put together this subject, which is a reality. I would only urge that do not think that remote working is the only future. Remote working is one of the facets of future working for sure. And to my mind, it's going to be a hybrid working. But what is even more important is how do we make sure that we are learning our lessons and utilizing them for future, for betterment. With this, I wish everyone a great session ahead. I see a lot of good friends on this session, very accomplished professionals on this session. Mr. R.P. Singh has spoken. Ms. Simin Askari is here. Very accomplished professional, Dr. Runa. Congratulations to you, Dr. Runa. You have become doctor very recently. हालांकि big party आपने दिया नहीं है, but I hope and we would soon get invitation from you. Today is the party or next week is the party. Once again, congratulations and all the best to everyone. Thank you for having me here today. Thank you. Thank you.
Sir, we are also waiting for the party.
Yeah. Thank you, Prem Singh ji. As always, your talk was all very motivating. I still recall when you took the training session in PhD chamber. The whole team was very motivated to that. So thank you very much once again, sir, for sparing your time and sharing your views with us. So now, as I mentioned earlier, we have the session 1 starting. So this will be future of remote working. So just to introduce the panelists for this session, we have with us Mr. Aditya Barlia, who is the co-founder and pro-chancellor, APJ Satya University, and he will also be moderating this session. So just to give you a very brief about Aditya ji, Aditya Barlia ji is named thought leader in education, pharmaceuticals, cloud compounding and design thinking, and has conducted keynotes and private workshops for industry leaders, politicians, and insiders. Mr. Barlia holds a BS honors from Stanford University and an MBA from the Harvard Business School. He was the immediate past chairman of the CII Delhi State. Aditya ji is a national best-selling author, of a prolific speaker and article writer. His views, quotes, and articles have appeared across the media. He was recently awarded znews.com, India.com Editor's Choice Educationist for the Year Award at EduFuture Excellence Award 2021. So thank you, Aditya ji, for joining with us. Our next panelist is Dr. Rishi Bhatnagar, the board member and president, Aries Communications India. Dr. Rishi Bhatnagar is an established executive leader in the starting strategic initiatives, executing and profitability scaling. Dr. Bhatnagar has managed large business units with around USD 500 million revenue in an MNC and also started technology startups. Experience of managing global customer, traveled across globe and handled multiple regions and market segments. Telecom, BFSI, automotive, healthcare, government education being key. He has managed large-scale outsourcing projects in multi-vendor and multilingual environment. Dr. Bhatnagar is the recipient of multiple awards, Leadership Recognition Award, IoT CEO of the Year, Business Leader of the Year, etc. Thank you very much, sir, for sparing your time and being with us. We also have on the panel with us Mr. Hitesh K. Arora, the Deputy Secretary from the Haryana State Board of Technical Education, Panchkula. He is the Senior Government Officer into Governance, Facilitation and Support of Technical Institutions. He is a graduate in Mechanical Engineering from NIT Kurukshetra, MBA, MTech pursuing PhD, and has more than 25 years of rich experience in both industry and academia, creating understanding and building synergy between the two. Currently, he is the Deputy Secretary in Haryana State Board of Technical Education, Department of Technical Education, Government of Haryana since 2017. He has been handling centralized training and placement cell at head office and had been responsible for students' training and placement activities. He has also worked as OSD to Additional Chief Secretary, Technical Education, Haryana, and had contributed a lot towards placements and collaborative industry interaction activities like establishing centers of excellence and in mobilizing CSR funds of corporate to technical education. He is a globally traveled person to explore functioning of best of the universities and technical institutions in Singapore and UK. We also have with us Ms. Aparna Dhingra. She is the Group CHRO from BMW India. Unfortunately, we have not got more brief from her, so maybe she can introduce herself when she talks. We also have with us Mr. Sanjay Bose, the Executive Vice President and Head HR of ITC Limited. Mr. Bose heads human resource of the hospitality business of ITC, the third largest in India with a workforce of 16,000 plus. Previously, Mr. Bose was heading global HR operations for the Taj Group with responsibilities spread across North America, Europe, Africa, and Asia. He has academic degrees from XISS Ranchi, IIM Bangalore, and University of Michigan. He was awarded the CHRO of the Year by Business World in 2019. Thank you very much, sir, for joining. And we have with us Ms. Simin Askari, the Senior Vice President HR and Business Excellence from DS Group. Currently serving as the Head HR and Business Excellence for rapidly growing conglomerate, the DS Group. Ms. Askari is spearheading several new initiatives aimed at organizational capacity building and improving efficiencies at the workplace. She is responsible for designing and establishing processes and policies across all business, streamlining and standardizing them, and introducing digital interventions to bring about business transformation. She has been honored with the Women Super Achiever Award at the Global HR Excellence Awards in the year 2010 and the Women Leadership Award in 2014, recognizing her amongst India's top women leaders who have demonstrated excellent leadership and management skills enabling changes and achieving results at the workplace. Thank you very much, ma'am, for joining. And we also have with us Mr. Anurag Mehrotra, Group CHRO from APL Apollo. Mr. Anurag brings over 23 years of vast experience in the core HR functional areas of talent acquisition, talent management, L&D, compensation and benefit planning, HR operations, IR and HR transformation, and of that 10 years in the leadership roles. Experience spanning diverse sectors and roles in organizations like Velocia Technologies, Sun Microsystem Group, Dumex India, Pitney Bowes, MapInfo, Rockwell Automation, Luminous, Schindler, and latest being at HFCL at the responsible positions. Anurag ji takes over the position of CHRO in his latest endeavor. So these are the panelists with us. So before I hand it over to Shri Aditya Barlia ji, we have a small video from our webinar partner, Mr. Aries. So I request my colleague Mayank to kindly show that.
Is it getting hard to work in a noisy surrounding? Do you keep muting and unmuting your microphone?
Can you please come again?
Do your colleagues keep asking you to repeat yourself because they are unable to hear you clearly? Well, Clarity AI is here to help. Clarity AI is a speech enhancement solution that improves your productivity by removing all unwanted background noise from your virtual meetings. Can you hear me now?
Yes, now we can hear you.
This solution works both ways, so you can mute background noise coming from your side as well as from other people on your call. The enterprise version of Clarity AI has a user-friendly dashboard for adding and removing licenses, managing users, and centralized billing using Enterprise module. Yes, you are audible with Clarity AI. Visit clarity.ai today to download and try for yourself.
Thank you, Mayank. So Aditya ji, over to you.
Thank you so much, Naveen ji. A very warm welcome to all of our audience members. Thank you so much for joining us today. My deepest congratulations and thanks to PhD Chamber of Commerce for putting together this wonderful panel. I have an extremely hard job, so I'm going to ask everybody to help me out here. Honestly, for each of these panelists member, I could have done a 1 hour one-on-one webinar on HR and we'd still have run out of time. So I've been told to have something like 40 minutes left and we're going to try to run through as much as possible. So I'll apologize to the panelists in advance. I would request them if you can keep your remarks to under a minute. If you take less than that, I will refund you the time and I will come back to you again and again. So don't worry about that. That's my job to make sure that we hear from you. The way I'd like to set this up very quickly is I'm going to try to ask very specific questions to panelists because I think with the wonderful introduction that has been set up by the previous two speakers, we don't have to give another framework to understand. All of us have lived this for the last couple of years. The only one thing which I would like to put in that, we are talking about the future of remote work. We've dealt with the past 2 years, and now I think this is a nice time to take from those learnings and see how do we go ahead. So, since we saw this wonderful video from Aries, I thought we'd start with Dr. Rishi Bhatnagar. Sir, particularly around technology companies, one of the big things that we are seeing is this huge talent war. And companies are looking at two things. One, they are looking at hiring talent in multiple geographies, especially from a technology side. They're also looking to cut costs while outsourcing from a technology side. But they're also now faced with a problem where the highest paid or perhaps the most in-demand people are demanding remote work. It's not so much as whether the organization wants to or not. To hire those highly specialized talents, organizations have to be flexible. Would love to hear your perspective on remote working and the talent war, particularly in your industry. Over to you, Dr. Bhatnagar.
Thank you, Aditya, for asking this question. In 2019, if you think about the IT industry in general, we used to hire 200,000 plus fresh IT graduates every year. We hired in 2019, but didn't call them to the office in 2020. And we didn't hire in 2020. Okay. So that 2-year gap, and then because of the 2020, there was not much work happening. Many of the people were asked to leave, and there was some kind of retention. We had to let people go. As a result, when in 2021, suddenly the work started growing and people adjusted to the remote working or hybrid working, what we call. Okay, the talent war started happening, and that's how the whole job is. And I am expecting it's going to take another 2 quarters when things get stabilized, because those 2-3 years gap where we have not trained the fresh IT graduates, they will be in the system again, and the system will start working. But during this time, every time when we are trying to hire people, they will say, what is your budget? Okay. So, it's the other way around. What is your budget and what is your work from home policy? Okay. So from the HR perspective, these were the 2 questions which will ask, and they'll have multiple jobs, and they will be keen to know what will be the working hours, what will the benefits, and what is the budget. So it has become a very big issue. And many times people will take a job and they will not join on time. Okay. And because of the remote working, as one of the somebody also said this, it's not only the data security, but people have started working into multiple jobs also. Okay, because now they have enough time, they are working from home, and there is no one who is checking them, and they can do multiple jobs, which is also one of the challenge, which is no doubt a data security challenge, but it's also a ethic challenge. We don't know, if they are working for some other company. Okay. So from the HR perspective, this is this is an issue. But Aditya, the way we have been able to handle it is we have identified, 30% of the jobs which can be done completely remotely. I don't want them to come to the office. Okay. And I can work without having them in the office. Rest 30% are the people who are supposed to, who can be, hybrid. They can come to the office. They might not be 2 days, 3 days. And there is another group of people who are supposed to be in the office. I can't live without them not being in the office because of security changes or whatever. And we have been able to identify, we have been able to create, we have been able to create the salary structure also.
Okay. So very quick question. For the 30% you have identified that, can do 100% remote. Have you changed from which geographies you are able to hire? Or
there is no need. It can be anywhere. So my resource pool has increased so much, I can hire from anywhere in the world. And to be honest, Aditya, this is sometime I can, I acknowledge one of my employees lives 100 kilometers away from Simla in a village, and there's a 100 Mbps hotspot available. He comes to in a school or some area where there's a 100 Mbps hotspot available. He does his job. And when we say, can you come to the office? Say, why? Why you want me to come to the office? I'm productive. And everything is there. So, the succession, the performance management will definitely remain an issue. And we are trying to find ways of seeing what can be the ways of doing performance management. Because, we are in a habit of seeing and feeling people, having somebody in front of you doing your job and then seeing how committed, how good they are. And we have to change those parameters. The productivity and the ethics is something which we don't, which we are trying to see. Productivity we can check, we have tools. The ethics is something which we don't know. Okay. But an organization of our type, the innovation is something which is getting impacted too much, because when you sit in a room together and try to innovate to find a best solution for a particular problem, that's something, which is missing.
Dr. Bhatnagar, this is fantastic, and please share the tools you're using in the next session that we have.
I have my colleague Samir there. He'll be able to talk.
Brilliant, really wonderful, and I do believe you guys are also creating tools. So it'll be nice to see how that pans out. If I'd love to go on to Shri Hitesh Arora, sir, you've had the unenviable job of perhaps managing both having remote working for faculty, for administrators, for students. A lot of talk now with the NEP coming, hybrid, etc. In terms of the administrative services, in terms of higher education, in terms of your being able to do an effective job as a regulator, how do you see remote working playing a role in that? Moving from physical inspections to virtual inspections, moving from being able to walk into an institution or see what's happening in the classroom to having to do this more from a hybrid model. So I'd love to get your thoughts on that. Hiteshi, you are on mute. Could you unmute yourself?
Yeah, I think it's okay now. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Aditya, and many thanks to PhD-CCI for the opportunity. Actually, we being a government organization, we have different challenges. 2 years back when COVID turned up, and because our system was a regular classroom system. So 2 years back, it was a shock to us that how should we manage our teaching learning process. So then, subsequently, we try to find out that, okay, through different tools which were available to us, maybe through YouTubes and all on our websites, videos and all that, we try to manage that. But now when we see, you see that people say that government response is very, very slow sometimes, comparable to the private industry, because decision making could take some time into that. But in our case, education is where you need to involve the students. Education is not that you can remotely do that. Everybody will appreciate your school learning days, your childhood learning days, when you were influenced with some of your teachers, and then how he is your favorite teacher, and then how he has taught you, and then you still remind them. So this teaching learning process, especially technical education, again, it's a big challenge. So the technical means you need to have to experiment with the machinery, with the equipment, some toolings and all that. So that has been a great challenge to us.
Let me try and focus on one big question, because obviously, this is such a large thing there. If there is one thing that you want to personally make sure that continues to be remote, that has really been successful, what would that be? Whether it is on how your own office operates, how the regulator operates.
As a regulator, when we talk about for our employees, say our faculty in charge, we have one thing called e-office system. It is made by an NIC system. So that's a very good working. So the functioning is very, very well for that. We are monitoring that. And for the students, we have done this e-learning management system as well as e-library system. So these two things will definitely continue, because in our case in education, especially technical education, blended learning is going to be a great hit in the coming times. Whether COVID stays or not, that's a different story. But we have understood and we have learned from the experience that this kind of blended learning will definitely go. Because the market is volatile, even the system is volatile. Somebody said it's brittle now. So, but these things will continue, and we want to make sure that with our students, with blended learning and using our e-learning management system as well as e-library, and I think this I'm also very much impressed with this Aries. I just see a small video on that. These kind of tools are definitely helping to communicate better, to have a track record of that. And we'll definitely continue with this kind of options.
Last question, our entire income tax has gone into a faceless mode. We have now seen, which I never thought I would see, entire Supreme Court cases and all happening on Zoom and on virtual. As a regulator and as being part of the government, do you see that continuing, that instead of people meeting you in your offices, either citizens or people you are regulating now regularly meet in Zoom versus having to fly into a state capital?
We have regulated to a quite good extent these kind of footfalls into our head offices. And we are doing even a lot of, we done from the last 3 months, I have done more than 10 MOUs through online mode only, through digital signatures and all that. Even that MOU signing has been done in that fashion. So we are trying our best to do whatever the activities can be done through remote system, but there are some things which you can't avoid. You will have to do that. That one-to-one interaction is important to that part. But definitely we can say that around 40 to 50% of our activities are being offloaded through remote activities. Yes, even as a government organization, a lot of tools are coming up which are making these processes more and more efficient and more effective. And definitely this is going to be continue. And but one thing again I would like to point here that that personal touch and the personal feeling, especially into the teaching learning, there is no comparison to that. We can't avoid that, and we'll be using in the coming times. But technology has given us a very great lesson even to government organization like us, that yes, the things can be done in a more effective way and in a more structured manner when you write the technology.
Thank you so much, Ji, for that very open and frank explanation of what's happening. I'd love to go to Mr. Sanjay Bose. Sir, one of the hallmarks of ITC, and of course, the Taru, where you've been before, has always been the power of culture. And this is something that old companies and particularly in the service industry have always seen, that culture eats strategy for breakfast. But you're also seeing now that with remote working, it's a struggle. How are you managing to do this in the teams that you have gone remote, in the way you are structuring the organization? How are you maintaining the ITC culture?
Yeah, thank you and good evening all. So yeah, I mean, I think there are 3 fundamental axes on which this whole principle of remote working rests. The first, of course, is the kind of industry that you're in. Are you in an industry which has a lot of customer contact, which requires a lot of customer contact? Is it about assembly line production? Is it something which can be done remotely on devices? When we are talking about remote working today, I used to be amazed at IBM doing this in such a big way 15 years back, where a big percent of their population was not even coming to offices. So, I mean, while we talk about it now so much more, but it's been there for quite a while. And I think one of the biggest determinants has been the kind of work that you need to do, the kind of industry you're in. So coming to us, and I represent the hotels and hospitality division of ITC. Our work is about creating an experience for my guest, for my customer, right? I can't imagine how that can be done from remote, because everything else is replicable. When you look at your product, your the food, etc., none of that can be done from remote. So a large chunk of our population is committed to being on site and delivering an experience. Having said that, our challenge was then to create systems around which you could still create, let's say, safe and hygienic distancing. We could still bring in elements of AI and integration with automation systems, which could be done remotely. So I would say about 20% of our activities have gone remote, which do not have to do with direct interface with the customer.
And Sanjay, for those 20%, how do you make sure that are linked in, right? It's a huge challenge.
Yeah. So yes, so in our minds and through our studies within the organization, there have been 3 distinct phases of this whole work from home, for that 20-25%. The first was of euphoria, where you get to be at home and you get infrastructure from the office in which you're connected, you're at home, you're a master of your own time. So as long as you deliver what you're supposed to deliver, there are no questions asked. Especially for the mid-management and lower segments, there was this whole issue of time which is being saved on commuting. The expenses came down, which had to do with going to office, coming back, and besides being master of your own time. So that was the first stage that we call as the euphoric stage, And that started gradually morphing into a stage which was about boundaries, The moment you went to work from home, when you crossed the first euphoric stage, it was about boundaries. Before this, you had a physical boundary, which was work and which was home. Here, because you're working remotely, as an organization, you have to be very conscious of putting in boundaries because one, you're a 24/7 industry, right? So you don't really sleep. We have to bring in a lot of self-discipline to ensure that we do a hard cutoff of work hours for our people. So that was our first learning, and that gave us results. The second is, and that came to us over a period of a year, is that we need to get people to meet. We are now 2 years into this remote working philosophy. You had whole teams which had joined remotely and did not get a feel of what they're working for and where they're working for. There are 5 senses that the body uses, right? And the most integral one of that is human company and warmth, which you need. over a period of time, we're feeling that that is something which is lacking. And therefore, we started creating opportunities where people would meet physically, even for an hour. So we had a system we brought in which had to do with small groups, small teams meeting, and it didn't matter whether they were coming to office or meeting. They would have met outside in a neutral place. But we encouraged people to go and meet and spend at least a couple of hours. The only mandate was that 30% of the time would be spent on not talking about work. It was basically just to engage. So that's something which gave us some results as we went forward. And of course, in 2 years' time now, we have developed a lot of routine and regimes of do's and don'ts which people do for each other. One thing is for every meeting ends with the bottom 10% of the meeting is kept aside for informal chit chat. The so-called coffee dispenser chats, which would happen in offices, we encourage that a lot. We do a lot of informal support to people to engage outside of work, whether they do socially over phone, etc. So some of those are the aspects which are brought in to keep our bonding, the culture piece intact. And of course, the underlying philosophy of the organization has always been about caring and warmth for employees. So whether it's been COVID or otherwise, the organization has always gone ahead, and whether it's mental well-being or physical well-being, but engaging education support, that continues. So that DNA actually is not impacted by physical distance.
And now that hopefully, fingers crossed, I think all of us can now cross fingers, toes, and as many appendages as we can, that we are done with more waves, and the hotel industry is fully back on its feet. But going forward, let's say a year from now, once hopefully COVID is sort of behind us, or at least now becomes a everyday matter, that 20%, would you keep them remote? Or would you want to say, okay, that was great, we did it because of COVID, but now, back to work, let's bring them back. We've lost something there.
It would be hybrid, to be honest. So certainly the people interaction and the warmth and the kind of bonding that inspires, that is something we would want to preserve. Certainly. Having said that, one of the things which this whole COVID 24-month period has done is it's accelerated a lot of technology innovation. Even before we went into COVID, there was a hotel in Japan which did not have people, right? Everything was done by robots. It was a fully robot-induced hotel. And that kind of intervention in normal hoteliering probably would have taken some time. So that has accelerated. So a lot of work which had to do with human interface has shifted, or is shifting, the process of shifting to technology interventions. So while the 20% that's currently working from home will certainly continue on a hybrid mode, but there is a lot of work processes which are getting changes, which will be replaced by technology.
Thank you so much, G. I certainly hope there that, like I said, the hotel industry is fully up and running again. It'll be wonderful to see. Fingers crossed. I said fingers, appendages, everything crossed. India needs the tourism economy back, and it'll be a delight to see that normalize soon. If I could go over to Shri Aparna Dhingra, ma'am. So one big thing, so two questions here for you to look at. Obviously, one would love to hear your thoughts on the performance management systems and how you were able to really, even though you have some people going work from home, integrate them into the standard organization performance management system. But also, BMW is a international company. Did you see the Indian operations and the BMW operations in Germany or other countries become closer? How did remote work sort of change the game on globalization for you and your employees?
So good question, Aditya, and I'll try and answer the second one first, and if I understand this correctly. So I think, BMW is a very global organization, as you would all probably know. So I think, even when we were let's say COVID days, I'm not calling it pandemic. I think there are versions whether it's an endemic now or a pandemic still continues. But pre-COVID days, I think we were pretty much still virtual, right? It's such a global organization, with headquarters in Munich. So you don't end up meeting your stakeholders back in the headquarters every day. So it is fairly remotely and very virtually being managed. Also, I think a lot of mature countries, are already following a lot of remote working culture. Yeah, I think it's probably culturally and technologically new for us in India, but I think a lot of other places, especially in the European world, remote working is not such a new concept. So I think globally it wasn't very challenging. In fact, it wasn't very different either, because like I said, pre-COVID times also we were working more remotely than physically. So I think what COVID has definitely done, or what this virus has definitely done, has broken through the cultural and the technological barriers that had earlier prevented remote working. I think that's become more predominant now. People are more accepting, especially in an environment which is very product centered. I wouldn't say manufacturing, but even manufacturing today, it's not possible to do remotely. But an organization which is very product centered, I think that barrier has been broken both culturally and technologically. And I think it has also set in motion a structural shift in where people can work from. So I think that definitely, as an organization, it has broken. And it's not just because of pandemic, or we're not talking about this shift in work environment because of pandemic, but even otherwise, as a way of working.
Trying to focus more into that, right? Historically, and I apologize, I'm not too familiar with the BMV structure in India. I'm a little bit more familiar with the German one, but in most multinational corporations, traditionally, when you have a country office, you have local people, you have a few people who may be seconded or coming in from different offices, reporting structures and all. Did you see the ability of people in India to feel connected to the home office, or the home office to feel connected, or your ability to bring global resources to your challenges in India? Did that change with remote working, where everybody remote, or pretty much it was just the same?
Not really, Aditya, honestly. I think like I said, I think globally this is still a very, I wouldn't say common topic, but more acceptable, I would say. And I think
because normally I've seen very hybrid structures, US, Europe, and all working very tandem. And India tends to get in its own little isolated mode.
Yeah.
As you said, those barriers were broken. Do you see that? I mean, how visible was that?
Yeah, no, I think so. See, it was more within India. I don't think so. It was to do with people who were seconded into India, or people who were more, let's say, international workers working out of India. I think it was for the locals really to accept this as a going in working solution. Yeah. Having said that, we're still a manufacturing organization. We have a plant set up in India. We have big, large plants in almost all country. And I think hence it's not possible to have a complete remote working. Yeah. And I think, for even when the pandemic happened, I think except for the pure lockdowns that happened, our plant and our dealerships were working throughout the year. So honestly, I think for a company like ours, especially for companies where there is a manufacturing setup, I think this concept is still not possible. Yeah, hybrid, I think, is still still a workable model going forward. When I look into the future, I think there's some jobs that can still work remotely. But I think given that we're a very heavy manufacturing organization, our product is manufactured in a plant environment. Those jobs cannot be worked. Those jobs cannot work in a remote environment.
So going forward, which jobs would you think are not just, we have to go hybrid or we have to go remote, but that you would feel with great joy that they are going remote? Are there any specific things that that you find that remote working is a feature, not a bug?
So I think I can rather tell you that what I think, I mean, I don't know jobs. It's difficult to handpick and say, okay, these jobs cannot work or should not work from office and can work remotely.
Just from your experience on,
I think what is important, I think what I feel is, I think activities which require coaching, counseling, giving feedback, advice, ideation, building, let's say, customer or colleague relationships. If you're negotiating with somebody, if you are, let's say, bringing new employees into the company, I think those are aspects, or those are tasks and jobs that require physical presence. I think not everything can work from home. I don't think so. There are roles that you can identify can work from home. I think one has to identify and break down tasks that can be done from home. And there are tasks that should be done from office, given that you have to also build a culture, you have to also build an organization for the future. So I think it's difficult to pinpoint and say, well, these jobs can remotely work from home, or they can remotely work from anywhere. I would rather put it in a different lens and say, well, there are certain roles, certain tasks and jobs that must work from office on a long-term basis. Like I said, innovation, problem solving, when you're looking at a creative idea, I think those are things that should be done when you are in a physical, face-to-face, personal environment, rather than in a virtual and technologically driven environment.
The task versus role.
Exactly.
Perfect. I'm going to hop over to Anuragji. Very similar, heavy manufacturing focus. Would love to hear thoughts on this. What as a manufacturing organization, what are the 2-3 things that really worked well for you in remote working that you're very excited about taking forward?
Okay, so first of all, thank you very much for having me. And just to share with you, I'm just about a month old in this company, and but
wonderful.
It's just 1 month old. So, but still, I'll give you my perspective. See, as you rightly said, it is all about it's pretty heavy manufacturing organization. So virtually, what it means is that in the plants you don't have opportunities to really work from home or have a remote. But the good news is that as an organization, we decided even at a certain level, even in the plants, for example, the finance function or a HR function, so I'm just getting it from the manufacturing and then come to the corporate as well. So we started creating some kind of a hybrid model. So we did not go purely on the remote working environment, but we went on the hybrid model to see how we are able to create some kind of an ecosystem, so that we are catching up with the global or the corporates or the company where the world is moving into. So that is what we tried to do that in certain spaces, but of course in certain areas where we could not really afford to bring in any hybrid or any remote, we just continued with the status quo. But certain support functions, yes, we did that. The other part was that in the corporate where we had, because we are primarily into the selling pretty strongly on the sales side of things. So that's where we had that hybrid working. We did a lot of, very positive towards the employees in terms of, and the other thing which I gave an opportunity to all my managers to take the call. So not leaving it to the organization to decide or something. We decided that we will want to continue in the remote working, the post-COVID since last 2 years. So we left it to the managers or to the functional heads to decide how do they want to operate, because at the end of the day, it's all about the output or the things or the task what each one of us is supposed to deliver. And I think it has actually yielded results. It has actually yielded results. So
so one, I just love this because this is something new. You actually delegated it down to allow individual people to look at their context and culture and see what can be done remote and how to do it. But I also picked up on something else. You of course mentioned very strong sales organization. Did you feel remote working made it easier to talk to customers or work? Obviously, you're exporting all across India, the world, and such. How did that change? Are your salespeople more effective? Were you able to hire people in different geographies to be closer to your customers?
See, if you see, honestly speaking, Aditya, if you see our numbers, so in the COVID times, especially in 2020 and 2021, the company has actually grown phenomenally. So if you see our numbers, we actually, the companies actually, there was a dip in the performance of a lot of companies because obviously of the reasons of the COVID, the entire pandemic which the globe was going through. But we actually have been able to do, so it's not about, I'm trying to boast or, trying to take a lot of kudos here. But the good news is that,
if you've done a great job, that's wonderful to hear. Just teach us how.
So the good news was that, we actually gave a lot of, as I told you, that we gave a lot of flexibility to our leadership, to our functional heads, to the managers, to how do you approach to the customers. We ensured that we are able to provide them the technology. So for example, we are very heavily working on the Google Meet, but there were certain people who are certain customers, they wanted to be on the MS Teams. So very quickly, we uploaded on the cloud, went to the MS Teams. So the idea was that we were equipping all our workforce, the sales workforce or the support functions to, be using this technology, whatever works for them, gave them a lot of flexibility in the terms so that they are able to reach out to their customers And the only one mantra which we very clearly followed was that you have to, the customer is the number one. So you have to ensure that you are, supporting and servicing your customers and providing whatever the solution is. So the other good thing which came up, other good thing which came up was that, you had the groups, the cross-functional teams started working very, in tandem and very close coordination. And there was a lot of camaraderie which went through. So that is how we really try to approach and try to, build in around our numbers and create that ecosystem to reach out to our customers or service our customers.
Thank you so much, Anand. I'm going to head over to, I think, who might end up being our last speaker, given the time constraints. Ms. Simin Askari, make sure that you're still with us. Can't see you on Zoom.
I am still here.
Yes, perfect. So one thing which I'd love to hear, DS Group obviously into a large number of different verticals, very famous, of course, for confectionery, spices, and such. Large distribution platform, trying to grow very heavily. When you look at remote working, how do you see it as a strategic way for you to re-engineer your geographies? And just to give you context, one of the things that we've heard people talk about is because traditional groups in India, which have been very heavy in particular geographies, because they needed to invest and open the multiple offices, plants, all in sort of concentrated forms, suddenly felt, hey, we can now have factories outside of the country, we can have units, offices everywhere else. How do you see remote working helping you unlock your future expansion? Or does it play no role at all, and you're still pretty happy with the way things are going so far?
So yeah, thank you, Aditya, for this question. This is a very, very large and very diversified organization with very different and diverse businesses. Each of the business has its own nuances, and the remote working, or the lack of it, I would say, is dependent on what business are we talking about. So, when the lockdown actually happened, the first one, it actually caught us by surprise, and it actually unlocked a lot of potential that we had in us, but we were never exploring. So a lot of things that we thought could never happen in the organization started happening. And this pandemic was actually a catalyst for a lot of digital initiatives that we were able to bring about. So we were doing remote working. We had no choice at that time. The sales teams were actually working remotely as well. We equipped everybody with the infrastructure, with the proper tools, so that they were able to be productive. So that's where the journey started, I would say, or where the actual, we were never into a remote working sort of, or a hybrid working sort of a, arrangement prior to this whole COVID scenario. But now it has become a possibility. Now my leaders and people who were skeptical about even virtual meetings or about possibly having remote sort of connects are starting to ask questions: why can this not happen over a digital platform? So there is a very, I would say, open and acceptable sort of a situation now where we are looking at the hybrid work as quite an integral part of the way we are now, right? So when it comes to expansion and when it comes to having workforce from various locations, yes, it's actually it's become quite a a pleasant, I would say, addition into the way we work now. So we have people for certain roles that they need not come into the offices at all. Certain, especially the technology roles that we have, we are not an IT company, but they are definitely, we have an advanced technology group that works on applications of AI into various processes that we have. So all of that can be done remotely. They don't have to come to the office. But certain roles, of course, like the manufacturing roles, they cannot be done remotely. So they have to be present in the office. So, yeah.
Ask you a different question on that. One of the interesting things which I love about always talking to very diversified groups is that they're always setting up a new factory or a new workshop or something every couple of years. Do you feel more confident in setting up a new manufacturing unit much further than you would have considered earlier? or just because you can have a remote management time more than having executives fly back and forth. Did remote working give that confidence, or you still think that's it'll still take a few years for people to accept that from a cultural perspective?
So Aditya, we were always a very aggressive organization. We've always gone to the remotest of locations. We have factories in Agartala, in Tripura, in Guwahati, and we are based out of Noida. Basically, the headquarters are here, and we are present across the country, and of course overseas as well. So we never felt that as a constraint. But yes, I think now with the various collaboration tools in place, with various ways of managing people remotely, it has definitely made it easier. I don't think it will have a direct impact on where are we going to open up the next factory, because as I said, we were always quite open to those kind of things, but I think that would only make it easier. Yeah.
Let me then switch questions. Are you open to hiring people from a more broader geographical area than you would have traditionally? I know a lot of companies in India who are now going and hiring in Eastern Europe and Latin America because they have specialist talents for their businesses there. Is that something that you're able to do?
Yes, of course, that's something that we are able to do now. And again, our jobs are across they're pan-India, of course, and they're across the world as well. And the resources that we, hire and attract are also across the country. So it's, this entire thing that we are able to remotely manage them and they're able to work from wherever they are definitely is helpful. Yes.
Thank you, Simanji. I think I'm just about out of time, Naveenji. I think
You are well within time, sir. You still have time.
I still have time. Thank you.
Yes, yes.
I just wanted to sort of, go back and ask a couple of follow-up questions. One of the big questions that we have always struggled with when it comes to remote has been performance management. And we all saw the curve, super high productivity, then work-life balance issues, then up, then down, and struggles. And I'd love to get from a couple of our panelists, just like a 30 seconds, 1 minute of experiments they have done that they felt were successful, things that have not really worked. And I'd love to go back to Dr. Bhatnagar and start with him, Ji. Just, one or two things that from a performance management system really worked for you, and one thing that just didn't work at all.
So the performance management system, we had to revamp everything. Okay. So as one of the colleague panelists said, we had to delegate, and every leader had to identify what kind of, the performance management system will they work. And, when you are working in an end-to-end organization, you have a sales team, you have a sales operations, you have a delivery team, you have a production team, So what we realized that everybody will be getting into a different kind of model, and we had to, different kind of performance mechanisms, which we had to work on. And it is more and more getting into the outcome based. How much is the outcome you have been able to achieve? Okay. And that is the kind of model which we have been able to successfully implement. That what was the kind of deliveries you are supposed to make in the time frame, whether it's it's a IT delivery team or a product management or a sales, and we have been able to handle it. So it's more of outcome is what.
What was something you tried that was a spectacular failure? Or at least you thought that, hey, we tried this, but geez, it doesn't work.
So, it is more of, sometimes we have been trying to, one thing which we tried was to see if a tool can be used to see how you're working and what you're working on and check productivity. That really, started getting into
screenshots, monitoring keyboard strokes, standard stuff, right?
So there are now a tool which is available on your, it gets installed on your laptop or a desktop. I will keep on checking what are you seeing and what are you doing. Okay, those kind of things didn't work. You need to give more and more independence, and you have to rely on your teams and that kind of trust. And honestly, people have different ways of doing things. So what we realized that, you have to continue trusting and you have to really rely on the outcome, and the outcome is the only way. So all those kind of, monitoring mechanism or a background tool running didn't work.
No, wonderful. Over to Roraji, sir. One thing that worked great for performance management in your office, one thing that did not work at all.
Yeah, definitely. It has been a great challenge. Although outcome-based educational system we were already doing before, even for because we are using for the National Board of Accreditation, NBAs and different ratings. And now for the new education policy also, which always already focuses on performance management system and outcome-based model. But yes, the challenges have been very, very tough for us because, especially into this teaching learning process, how to monitor the performance is quite tough, big challenge for us. And even the people have started making jokes on COVID batch that this engineering batch is passed out of the COVID batch because see the things are not as good as it should be, But it had been a challenge. We are trying our best through different monitoring systems, through our reporting systems, but we are definitely looking for more and more technology help into this to get into that kind of solution for this.
And the one thing that didn't work that you tried, we all tried some crazy thing during COVID, right? The one thing that
definitely we worked it and tried a couple of things which couldn't work because when we thought that yes, we'll be writing on the technology for students, practical virtual lab kind of systems. There are virtual labs for the students, but the students we tried a couple of good virtual labs for doing their experiments that physically couldn't happen, but that thing couldn't actually work. Students didn't get involved into that kind of things, and because since they were not using their hands-on experience on some different machines and CNCs or a couple of good things, but that virtual that outcome of virtual lab performance couldn't work for us. We really admit that.
Thank you, Sotarari. Sanjay ji, one thing in your performance management system that worked, one thing that was a nice try but failed or perhaps not the best idea.
Yeah, so like everyone else, the outcome-based pieces, they worked very well, which was already there in place. But before that, as a company, we put a lot of focus on the means to the end, how you get to deliver the results. So in that sense, I think we lost a little sight of how that's working, which we try to bring in through remote instruments, etc. But to be very honest, that has not really worked. The how piece is still something that we are currently grappling with. How do we do it in a remote setup?
And what's the fundamental challenges? Is it really measuring metrics? Is it do you feel you have to redefine the KPIs, KRAs? Where do you see that that slight differential that's still holding the organization back? Because we're all in the same boat, right? Well, same storm, perhaps not same boat.
So the KPIs are not a problem. Yeah, it's the same storm. The KPIs are not a problem because the customer always remains the center of it. And what you do to deliver to the customer is what matters. So, but how you do it, I mean, that's basically, okay, let me spend about 30 seconds explaining what I'm saying. See, ours is a very, very touch and feel industry, right? A person who's walking into the restaurant can be served 5 different ways, and it all depends on the intuition of the person who's addressing that individual. The same individual can come in with different mindsets, depends, and at different points of time. And how do you address that is something which is very intuitive. So while results of serving that individual can still be there, how you create a delight depends on a lot of other things which are, which is basically what a service DNA is about. How do you measure that piece when you're out of sight and working from remote, and not only for a day or two, but for a long period of time, is something which is the challenge. Okay. A lot of service, okay, so while restaurant is something which is physical, a lot of service is also about doing online bookings, handling, requests, special requests, etc., etc. How do you measure those things when you're, not in the vicinity of a supervisor? Something that we've been grappling with. We have made some headway of how we are trying to do that, but it's too early for us to say that we have conquered it.
And I'm very grateful for your open and honest reply. I think, one of the nice parts about COVID-19 is that, at first everybody was going around saying, hey, we got this. And then I think all of us are now very willing to share and be vulnerable, saying, okay, maybe we don't have it entirely, and we still have to think through a lot. So I really appreciate your sort of walking that on. Would love to go to Aparna ji, back to you. The one great thing you guys did with your performance management system that worked really well, one thing that you may have tried that was perhaps not the best idea, or at least theoretically you should have worked but didn't.
Sure. So I think from like what Sanjay said, I think and probably that was a little bit of a highlight for us. So I think like most other organizations, there's a lot of focus on the what part, which is what you can quantify and what you've achieved. I think how you've done that is is also equally critical, because not every situation is the same. And I think what we did was, given that we didn't meet people as frequently as we were used to, I think there was a lot of greater emphasis put on the how aspect. Because the auto industry and BMW was no behind. We did also have our tough time during the pandemic, especially 2020, when it was the first wave. And hence there was a lot of more focus on the how aspect, because even selling that one single unit was very, very difficult. And hence what was not the most critical aspect, but the how aspect. And I think the entire company appreciated, and employees really, really appreciated how we had quickly changed our gears on adapting to the changing environment.
So to just put that in perspective, so what you're saying is, in your measurements of process, because the process had to change, that's where you were able to be a lot more successful. Your standard activities for sales, your standard, the expectations of your partners at work, you were able to adjust the process and then measure them on the new process.
Correct. I mean, I won't say new process. I think it was an adjustment. I think
adjusted process.
Adjusted process. Yeah. I think what probably is still in the phase of maybe getting institutionalized and not something which really went well. We bought in this new tool, which was about continuous feedback. Yeah. Given that we were not meeting people and you couldn't instantly give feedback, and you were not always recording feedback all the time, we thought we'll make this very simple tool where you could sort of solicit feedback and give feedback in a 360 manner, on an incidents driven, not only at a performance appraisal time. And I think that, of course, didn't take off as well as we had planned. I think it was just a means to enable people to be able to sort of solicit feedback and give feedback, but didn't become as.
That's a great question. Do you think that didn't work because of inherent cultural issues in India? I mean, if you'd implemented this even pre-pandemic, you'd hit the same problem, or was it just a, or it was a remote working issue?
Yeah, no, I think in India we are very proactive in giving feedback, not so much probably at soliciting feedback. So it could be cultural, but also I think we didn't focus on the implementation as much as maybe one would want to. So yeah.
Fair enough. I mean, especially I always refer to COVID as changing the engines on the airplane as you're flying it. So as long as the plane stays afloat, I think all of us can go home happy with that. Thank you so much. Anurag ji, same question. I'm going to be consistent. One performance management thing that worked really well, you were able to change it, and you saw, okay, this is a great way to measure and reward remote work. And one thing that you tried that perhaps wasn't the best experience.
See, I'll tell you what. See, so the good news was that in the performance management, actually we moved on to a technology which is balanced scorecard. I think that was
congratulations, very hard shift.
Exactly, but that went out very well actually, especially for people around sales and people around into the people who very clear-cut measures. I think people felt pretty positive about it because it had got no shades of gray. Even for my HR team, they were pretty happy and excited. Okay, if I was supposed to do 8 man-hours of training or something, and I'm actually measurable on that.
Were you implementing balanced scorecard? Was this planned pre-COVID or was it triggered while COVID and remote work started?
So it actually triggered at that point in time, because before that we were more using an MBO kind of a thing. And India as a country is not very, still we talk about performance management, but we are not very, very evolved. We keep talking, we're still using the, the bell curves and distribution ratings. But, pre-COVID, the balanced scorecard actually really did a lot of wonders for us, because, it's always easy for salespeople. It's always easy for people who have matrix into this stuff to, actually see the things in black and white. So I think that really worked very well. Yes, but balanced scorecard has its own challenges, of actually adopting it and using it. So, but it worked positive, I would say. The thing which did not work, see, performance management is all about feedback. And when you are working remote and when you are not directly having that access, not having that feel for your employees, I think that is one. And then of course, it's not easy to give strong feedbacks or negative feedbacks by any manager, whatever level you are. So I think that is the area where we did not do great. And I think that is something which we need to discover and work. And I keep reading about it, that how do we really bring in a lot of sanctity and a feel into the feedback sessions when you are working remote. So that's one area.
I think that's a wonderful point. I have definitely been part of very difficult conversations where a 10-second grin and a handshake just dissolves all issues, versus trying to do that over a half-an-hour painstaking Zoom meeting where it's just completely in communication. I think that's a great point. I think that emotional hard feedback for performance sometimes is very difficult to do over a Zoom call, and I won't allude to some of the international things that have happened. Obviously, we all know that.
The good thing, just to wrap up, it's important because you have to get this work done from the same person. So in a Zoom call, you're giving that hard feedback, and next moment you have to get the work done from that person as well. So you have to maintain that balance, and doing it without the feel of the person throws a lot of challenges.
Last word, Sisamanji. Quick example. I think we have 30 seconds on the clock. One thing that worked really well for performance, one that you could have, or you thought perhaps you might want to try again.
So Aditya, since it's just a 30-second thing, I'm going to be very short. Basically, what changed in our entire setup was not how we did the performance, but the mindsets. How we were going about it. That actually changed. So initially, when the whole remote working happened, that's when the micromanagement started happening. That's when people thought that they are not around us, we're not seeing them, we don't know what they're doing, and that's where the trust deficit started happening. What changed was then when we started, building that trust, when people started taking ownership of the work, the entire things actually shifted. And that's where, our actually performance management went to the next level, I think. We have kind of evolved now because we have now started looking at, of course, the outcomes are obviously very important and everybody does that. But then building that trust around it, making sure that the people are taking ownership of whatever they are doing. I think that's what changed for us.
And I think we'll end the session on that, trust and ownership. If there are two things that we could really look about remote work of the future, if we can solve for these, making sure that we can trust that the work is being done ethically, securely, in a fashion, in a timely manner, equivalent or better than in person, and ownership, so we don't have to worry about which team is where and how you're doing it. You're still working as if it was your own company, no matter at what level you were at. Thank you, everybody. I wish I had another 1 hour. I feel we just scratched a lot of this at the surface, but it was wonderful to have you all here. And I hope PhD does more of these so we get more time to talk. Over to you, Navinji. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aditya ji, for moderating the session. And as you rightly pointed out since the beginning, that we need more time for these kind of sessions with such experts in this. And I assure you that soon we will be coming with the second edition of this, sir, so that we can have more interaction with you all. So with this, we end the first session. Now we have the second session, which is innovative technology and HR. So now I would like to request my colleague, Dr. Jatinder Singh, to kindly take this further, please.
Thank you, Naveen ji. And in fact, the first session was a very, very wonderful session in terms of understanding the nuances of working from remote. And as we know that in order to achieve scale and in order to have big impact, there has to be the footprints of technology in each and every, part of HR. So this session is curated in order to understand that how innovative technology can actually be a boon for HR, and how we can enable all practices of HR, right from talent acquisition to employee engagement to employee motivation, and also then finally employee retention. So we have a very rich panel for this particular session, and we are lucky to have Dr. Runa Mehta as our moderator for this session. And without any further ado, I will just like to read the profile of all our distinguished speakers for this session. And Dr. Runa Mehta is founder and director for People Talent International. And Dr. Runa has 2 decades plus HR and OD experience in fintech, IT, ITS, professional services, manufacturing and retail sectors in India, US and UK. She is also the founder and director of People Talent International and has partnered with multiple entrepreneurs as business. Prior to her business role, she worked as country director HR of Clifford Chance, center head HR of Converges, head HR in Dalmia Group, Aptera, as well as Escorts Finance Limited. Then we have Mr. Samir Mahapatra, country manager India and SAARC, Aries Communication India. Mr. Mahapatra is the vice president and country manager head India and SAARC. At Aries Communication, he is an experienced leader with a demonstrated history of working in the telecommunications industry in the last 21 years. He has been a part of the industry's leading corporates like Standard Chartered, BSNL, Reliance Communication, and Vodafone India Limited. And over the last 2 decades in the telecom industry, Mr. Mahapatra has been instrumental in significant contributions in building infrastructure strategies and driving multiple businesses for leading telcos in the country. And he has been part of key industry milestones, both in consumer mobility and enterprise businesses. We have Mr. Srinivas Rao, country head and head of strategy, GTM and distribution, Logitech Electronics, India. He has 20 years in leadership roles across B2C and B2B in consumer technology and retail across India and Southwest Asia. We have Ms. Ruchi Akolkar-Res. She is the CHRO of Aticonos. She has inculcated an ability to learn and relearn best HR and digital operations, having experience in HR and digital marketing, social media over the last 10 years. She has took up the challenge of internet marketing after completing her engineering and handling all the HR and operations at Technos. We have Mr. Kulin Shah, co-founder OnSurety. Mr. Shah joined OnSurety a month from its inception as the co-founder and in March 2020 and is responsible for the business growth. Prior to this, he was building the digital partnerships business for Echo. With over 14 years of experience in launching and driving business P&L, category management, product management, brand partnerships, growth, business development, and venture capital, Kulin has been a mentor to multiple startups as an angel investor in multiple companies. He is sharing the same vision as, I think, his co-founder Yogesh, who had laid the foundation for OnSurety, and Kulin came on board OnSurety. So we have, in fact, a very rich, profile of all the delegates. And as we know that the workforce is evolving and people's, outlook on how they have shifted the work, it's totally, different. Ideas around like independent work, remote work, gig economy, employee engagement, and also outsourced services, they're all changing the entire perception in terms of how employers are hiring, training, and also managing talent. And now with the help of AI-driven technologies and new data sources, the capabilities of human resources departments, they are quickly changing. Now the companies, they cannot afford to lose top talent to their competitors, and the best companies will definitely empower their HR teams with innovative technology to give them the advantage. And as we know that technology is playing a very crucial role in inclusive growth of modern human management systems, and adopting this innovative technology within the organization will enable the managers to accumulate and also deliver the information as well as communicate with employees more effectively. So in order to understand the nuts and bolts of how innovative technology can actually transform HR, without any further ado, I'll request Dr. Aruna Maitra to kindly take over this platform and please moderate this session. Over to you, Dr. Aruna. Thank you.
Sir, Dr. Jitendra, before that, we have a small video from our webinar partner.
We'll play this video and then we can start the panel discussion.
Do you ever have unwanted noise on a conference call? Maybe one of your coworkers is typing on the computer while you're talking. Or maybe somebody's tapping a pen and making noise in the background. Or worse yet, they're shuffling papers, or eating chips out of a bag. You might even have a coworker who's behind you, talking on the phone. All those things are why we created Clarity. Because with Clarity, we eliminate all those distractions. So when you turn on Clarity, with a simple click, like I'm doing right now, then all those noises are gone. So if somebody's typing on the tap, you don't hear that anymore. If somebody's tapping themselves with a pen, you don't hear that anymore. Somebody's crinkling papers or eating chips out of a bag, you don't hear it. You don't even hear that annoying coworker who's walking behind you and talking anymore. So go to www.clarity.ai and download it and try it for yourself.
Thank you very much. And over to you, Dr. Una Mehta. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you, Dr. Jatinder. And the video was so interesting. I was totally engrossed, even if it's a short one. And I was wondering how we can get access to it and when is the time we're going to use it. Super excited to see such innovation, and so happy to have such an eminent panelist. And first of all, thank you, each one of you from PhD Chamber of Commerce. You are putting so much effort and putting a platform to contribute to the HR community. I would say that I'm the lucky one moderating a session. We have people from business, and even if I found that Ruchi has currently a role of HR, but her background, when I was reading her profile in LinkedIn, really fascinated me. That what a beautiful combo of HR and business, especially digital marketing, which is going to be very handy in our conversation. And so happy to meet Srinivas, and what a marvelous work you're doing in Logitech. And Colleen, such a young co-founder. We all love to talk to this youth who are creating wonders in this world. So I guess we all have very nice topic to handle right now. Samir, I had been following you for a while, so good to see you. Really happy to be part of this panel and having the opportunity to interact with you. I have a little pressure of time, probably because our session was supposed to start at 5:10, and we are starting at 5:33 to be particular, and I have OCD on time management. Okay, so I'm taking permission formally from Dr. Jatinder, Mayank, Naveen, sir, that do we have clear 40 minutes, or should we actually end at a particular time? Please allow me so that I can manage the session accordingly. So if you're starting now, do we have a hard stop at 5:50 because you need Q&A time as well?
Ma'am, half an hour is good enough. If we can manage in half an hour, that will be good enough.
Okay. So I'll try to, complete the session by 6 o'clock, which is going to be not exactly half an hour, a little less, but we will do a great job. I know, I'm sure panelists may have that. How am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
In the digital world, yes. I did all right things to ensure that I have the right bandwidth. And that's exactly the issue when we are talking about managing virtual workplace. And you all have probably a great journey from 2020, because I think we got introduced to this virtual world way back. After liberalization, all these American companies coming to this country, I joined a multinational in 2000. And we wish to use link and digital, kind of a workplace. However, I think now we can all say that we are part of that world. So we would talk about certain, modalities in terms of challenges. I would also talk about etiquettes, and especially, as I said, managing time and working around the possibilities, because you have such back-to-back meetings, conversation. But I think the very interesting part would be that if I can request each one of you to talk about your personal journey, which will inspire our audience, and you may take like an elevator pitch, few minutes, all right, so that we have loads of questions to cover. So can I request like a round robin, each one of you, please come forward and talk about your personal journey of moving to remote workplace. May I start with Colleen?
Sure. So thank you, Dr. Mitra, for having me out here. And yes, it's been a very interesting journey for us. Moving to a work from home, because we fondly call ourselves at Onsurity that we are a COVID baby. We started our journey sometime in March of 2020. We were all enthused with our new small, garage kind of a workspace. And, comes about 18th or 19th of March when we all went, proactively for a lockdown. So I think our entire journey has been that of a remote work from home kind of a company. While all of us have been used to kind of, working with teams in our prior roles, but everyone at Onsurity has kind of, started their journey as, work from home colleagues. And I think it's been very special for us because the kind of bonding that we've had during the work from home, and then when we kind of, sporadically started the office for some time, and when people saw each other, it was heartening and nothing short of a emotional video that you would see on a YouTube, right? Because during the entire time, right, we started with a team. When we went on to the lockdown, we were a team of close to about 12 or 15 people. We are now a team of close to about 150 odd people ourselves. And, that's been a fairly, fast growth for us. And then ensuring that everyone is motivated, given our product is very unique in India, getting everyone on the same page, aligned to the same vision, and ensuring that we are, like we call it internally, one Onsurity, was a very interesting journey. We obviously laid a lot of emphasis on using technology. Being a technology startup, using technology was not something new for us. But, we wanted to kind of do over communication. We used a lot of tools to ensure that our inductions were in place, and, we were able to give the right product knowledge to all our team members and tell them about the vision that we are, where we want to democratize healthcare for the 63 million SMEs in India. And I think, what we thrived on, and these are some personal learnings, is that we built a culture of transparency where all the information was always available to all our, team members. We ensured that everyone, irrespective of their function or irrespective of their, job profile, was always there to help each other, right? And I think that has really helped us to drive a single vision and a single story or a single product, experience for everyone. So I think this has been a very interesting journey for us, being a work from home company. Yeah.
Fantastic, Colleen. You really have set the tone. Especially I liked about how you had motivated people to align with the vision. And you're talking about a lot of, stuff around transparency. I'll go to that point. But when we talk about aligning with vision, and we are very lucky to have Srinivas, who's heading an organization. And this is a beautiful combo of both HR and business. So why not learn from a business leader that what you saw personally, and also as Colleen connected with the team as well. So why not even talk about your expectation from HR and how they fared in the process? Would you like to highlight those as well?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you very much, Dr. Una, for having me as the panelist, and of course, the PhD Chamber of Commerce there. And thank you for everyone here listening to this, being present here. So if I have to, talk about specifics, basically, if I have to take a step back, what has actually COVID done for all of us and to me? So what has happened is actually 4 key aspects of our life went into digital. So one, we all started moving to work from home, doing work from home, or what we call as a hybrid kind of a work model. Second, typically every day we used to have some kind of a sport or something what we used to do, but that again got converted into something called e-sport. We started playing online. So that got converted into play from home, right? And then most of our children, instead of a physical school, started learning online. So that become a learn from home. And largely some of us, typically we try and create content, whether it is some educational content or doing some fun videos. So streaming, what we call as streaming. So that moved from stream from home. So essentially what happened was it was work from home, play from home, learn from home, and stream from home. So therefore what happened to was everything became a digital or a virtual. And what we had to do was become adaptive to these flexible kind of a digital world. And the most important thing was, how did we actually have the infrastructure to do all these 4 key aspects of our life. So that was the most critical thing what happened during this pandemic. And well, we all adapted to it. And over the course of next few discussions, probably I'll let you know in terms of how we actually helped the consumer around the country to adapt to these changes there.
I think we got a lot of terminology, new ones, because we probably got fatigued again. Beside digital fatigue, we got fatigued with work from home and work from anywhere. I guess we were doing that all the time, but I guess the way you have analyzed it, it's something beyond imagination. So thank you for doing that, and I'm looking forward to your next input in terms of how you have productized the whole thing, how you have connected to your world of customers, and probably we can also all have some views on that. Why can't we move from business side to HR side now? So Ruchi, you are the next one. Probably you can share your personal journey as well as what you observed as a CHRO of an organization, and touch challenges as well as give some kind of insight how you overcame, because that would be probably good learning for our audience.
Yes, thank you so much, Runa, Dr. Runa, for the lovely introduction, first of all, and thank you so much, PhDCCI, for giving me such a great opportunity. So I have been associated with A-Technos from past 6-7 years, and we are into digital technology and even the content media. So we are associated with like in India, US, and pan India. We do have many offices, though we have our head office in Gurgaon. Yes. So about HR. So it has been a very, very good journey. Like earlier, before pandemic, it was very, very easy to handle with. But our biggest challenge after pandemic is the coordination with employees, coordination with other team management, even though who are working from home and who cannot work from home, like the administration part and some few other fields like who cannot work from home. So even though who are working on desktops, so those are the biggest challenges when the pandemic suddenly came. So earlier we were not prepared for that, but suddenly we have managed to do that. We have arranged the laptops who were working on desktops. We arranged the laptops, and we arranged the HR softwares to coordinate with our employees properly, so we can mark the attendance. We can get what kind of work they are doing on the daily basis, on the weekly basis. They are coordinating with their managers very well. So yes, it was very hard to coordinate with them in early stages, because that was very new for all of us. Of course, some people were working from home earlier as well. Like some people were remotely working from Mumbai, as in Hyderabad and Bangalore. But this time, each and every employee has to work from home. So this was very biggest challenge for us. And yes, we have introduced new policies as well. Like we introduced unlimited leave policies. Like we think our employees are our backbone. If they're not comfortable, if they are not happy, so our work cannot be done happily. So they should be happy. So we have introduced the unlimited leave policy as well. We have introduced the new work policy as well. They can work wherever they work, from wherever they want. They can apply leaves, how many leave as much they want. They just get the work done, get it approved from your manager. That's it.
How amazing. In fact, today morning, there was a query in my CHRO group that am I audible?
Yes, you are.
So I think this organization Clarity, is going to get a lot of business, because suddenly I heard a voice and I thought, oh my God, it's me or someone. All right. Thank you, Ruchi. I guess, I was already in the deep thought about how you have beautifully introduced certain policy and being such inclusive as an organization to relate to current scenario and change. And probably you are very innovative in your way of looking at policy. I will come to
even
that
Dr.
in my next
Runa,
question.
we are. I'm so sorry. I'm interrupting with you.
No, please do.
All right. So even we are still, even we are still thinking how we can do what we can do for our employees to make this work from home easier. Like being a 6-year-old kid, a mother of a kid. So she is always sometimes she is always struggling from like, mama, internet is not working, how am I going to attend my class, laptop is switching on and off, something like that. So from these kids are also we are learning a lot of things, like how we also can interact with our employees and our team members.
I think Ruchi, Srinivas, Kulin, and Sami, the good news is a lot of innovation is happening. Today, right in the morning, I had a call with a lady from San Jose, California, and she has innovated this thought, and she has come out with an organization called Inclusivate. And they're looking at exactly, this solution which you're talking about, that how do we enable working mothers who had your young mothers and who have this scenario. So I think this calling is happening everywhere. Innovation is happening everywhere. But I think I liked one area which you talked about. How did you coordinate? That's something you talked about, and none other than Samir can talk about, because I saw this fantastic pedigree with something called communication. I think this communication architecture in terms of this virtual capability building, please put some light, because we all need it. Samir, over to you.
Dr. Runa, thank you so much for having me here. Thanks to PhD Chamber and all my fellow eminent panelists. I think Srinivas spoke about how lives change from play from home, streaming at home, work from home. When the pandemic hit us in March 2020, I think the entire world was divided into various quarters, right? I mean, the first quarter or the first month of the quarter, we did not know how long this will stay. Nobody knew, right? If we would have known, I mean, if anybody would have had that hindsight vision, we would have been millionaires and we would have saved so many lives. At workplace, at home, as Srinivas said, there is just so much which got disrupted. And I remember at workplace 1 month down the line, while we were all holed up, there were questions about, we were questioning ourselves. I would have sleepless nights about how business would happen. How do I reach out to colleagues? Some colleagues who were stuck at such remote places that you did not even get to hear from them, so on and so forth. And then I woke up to, tell the overzealous critical self of mine that, I don't have a ready template. This does not happen to us every year, once a month. So I think none of us had a template, right? I mean, so, how do I get business up and running? How do I manage family? How do I travel? What do I do about my fitness regime? So we did not have a template. And I think that first acceptance that this is going to stay for long, and create a template and let that template be refined every quarter as and when changes. I think that is something that we started implementing at workplace, and then home obviously happened around it. I mean, what happened at all our respective residences because of or our work invading back into our homes or private spaces is a discussion for a different day altogether, right? Because it has been so underpinned and under talked about in terms of how the household has managed the the office invading the personal space. We get dressed up in these suits and still come on these calls. We don't even I mean, I'm sure all of us realizes, but we don't even give a heart to what happened to the house, which suddenly turned overnight into an office, right, disrupting everything. So but at workplace, one of the things that we did was that we created regional offices. Now, we always had regional offices across the regions that we manage, that few of the countries that we manage from sitting out of India, including various states and circles. Suddenly, we realized that we are not going to meet up with these colleagues. We are not going to have them run a lot of new processes, which needed a lot of sign-offs, delivery to happen. We created central CEOs, right? We called them, so each of my regional managers would now suddenly become CEOs in their own rights, where they had a lot of empowerment to take decisions, where the entire bureaucracy of whatever was the processes was refined. So I think for the first couple of months, I spent a lot of time creating new efficient processes, which would help my colleagues to still operate and keep that customer on the field, on the end of all of this effort, still with the same support level and same touch and feel. So I think even before communicating, Dr. Runa, I think what we did well, or what we looked at, was as to what works for the business, what works for the customer, what works for the employee colleague, right? And whether it was about providing internet bandwidth at all of these locations, whether it was providing better communication tools. I mean, we ended up creating a product in itself, getting infrastructure, getting that emotional support. We had doctors and on call for all of the employees during the entire pandemic, so that they can reach out. I think we did some of these things, and as I said, we made all of these plans every quarter, because every quarter was a new challenge, right? There was technology. I mean, I can talk to you about how we've spoken about and discussed 10 years back about cord cutting, right? When cable television was going off the hook and DTH was coming in, OTT was coming in. Today, I talk about in a separate forum. I was talking about wireless fatigue, right? So we've come a full cycle from Srinivas might or might not like me saying this, but we've come a full cycle from. He in fact is on a wired one, so he's got that wireless fatigue. So from going from cord cutting to now wireless fatigue, and I think all this is moving in a vicious circle. We will have to see how this unfolds. But I think during the discussion today, I will also speak about a couple of new things that we've done, we've brought to the market, which just tried to change some bit of how we work from remote locations. So looking forward to an interesting discussion, Dr. Runa.
Samir, you made such a hallmark, because you talked about how we moved from shock to exploring, to experiment, to disruption, and which, of course, the whole context of innovation you're talking about, and you really touched many sides of it. And I really like the way you talked about, both sets of fatigue, and I don't have any view on that, because I guess Samir and Srinivas can debate on it. Nevertheless, I guess considering we have another 6 minutes and you already have a lot to cover, I would, put together a query to you. And again, you have done a beautiful job of giving your elevator pitch and so much content within such a short time. But I think I would reflect on something you mentioned in terms of culture, of accepting technology, which is, you could leverage. However, you also have seen the engagement piece has gone to complete transformation. And this recent great resignation happened. So the organization you represent, each one of you have some contribution to make to help all the organizations, especially HR and technology, of course, they are now together, HR and tech. So what would be your mantra to all the organization from a product standpoint, because you're representing beautiful organizations? So how would you say that this great resignation scenario can be stopped, or maybe, somewhat reduced, the kind of stuff happening around? So would you, each one of you, like to talk, from your product's point of view? Yeah. I can start with Srini. Srinivas, would you like to begin?
Yes. Yeah. So thank you, Dr. Runa. So basically, from a product standpoint, how are we making a difference? How are we reducing fatigue? to our consumers, and of course, every employee is a consumer of our products there. So basically, what are the 2 or 3 key things what we are doing it? One is, of course, from a Logitech perspective, design is at the center of everything we do. Every team, every discipline, every product. We try and create, unique experiences and meaningful experiences. So basically, what are we doing from a product to the consumers? I'll go a little fast. So basically, it's like, one, productivity, right? At being at home, what are we trying to look at? Of course, we try and look at how do we improve the productivity of each of our consumers and each of our employees. So we have different innovative products, like we have this MX Master, which has max speed scroll, and we have a lot of stuff, innovative things, which is what we have in our products. Second, what are we doing? Second, what are we doing is we are trying to bring out products which has a blend of style and utility. Today, each one of us is looking at, we have our own personalities. So therefore, we would like to have a blend of our functionality or utility with the kind of style what we ooze. So that's the second thing what we are bringing in. And the third thing, overall, cutting across all our products, is the experience. Ultimately, what is the experience I'm delivering? So, like, for example, today we are on this Zoom call, and I'm speaking on a Logitech a C922 web camera. So what are we doing? So it's a streaming camera which increases, which has an autofocus, and it has this technology called optimizing the lighting conditions. Even if you don't have light, you're visible, and you're having a pretty voice clarity there. So these are a couple of innovative and technology. I don't want to use the technological jargons what we have, but largely we are trying to create experiences which actually deliver there in terms of the overall delightment of the consumer there. So we have different kind of products. Like typically, if you're trying to create a content, I mean, you have, typically today's millennials or today's consumers, you try and create a content, and suddenly you switch to a WhatsApp chat onto your phone. So we have something called an easy switch keyboard, when you are trying to create a content on your laptop with just press of a button, you're moving onto your mobile phone and chatting with your friend there, and then coming back again and trying to creating a content there. So
thank you,
many kind of things there. Yeah.
Thank you, Srini. I think I'm sorry if I've interrupted you, because you have 2 more minutes and I have a lot to cover. Largely, we can see that all of you are talking about improving experience in digital workplace. And I think you can probably give your pointer, Ruchi, Kulin, and Samir. I will not come in between, do a round robin. So I will start with Ruchi, then Kulin can talk about it and Samir can talk about it.
All right. Thank you, Rona. So here I wanted to talk about something. You spoke about the iteration rate and the resignations are coming. Yes. So we also do have a very beautiful product called Almond Vertex. So it is also a virtual product and a very talented team behind it. So the team has to, sometimes the team has to work so hard. They have to come to we invite them to the office, to our office studio. So to encourage our employees to do that we have lot many things done for them, like to provide, if they're staying after 7, so provide them dinner. So we order a dinner for them, and obviously the transportation. Obviously we tell them, we even provide them the like the to stay, like the traveling expenses also. So it is all about to encourage your employees that what exactly they are doing, and they to just stop them somehow, to stop them not to go. We are the best thing for you, we are doing the best thing for you, we are encouraging you, we are giving you what you want. So this is how what we are doing to encourage our employees and to reduce the iteration rates.
Right. I think I'm going next. So, Dr. Runa, I think a very good question. Let me tell you a little bit about onsurety. And I think we were built for companies during the lockdown, because we are a completely technology oriented employee health benefits platform. And I think who else but this group will obviously appreciate the kind of work that we're doing. That we were the only platform in India who have created a very unique, comprehensive employee healthcare program, right? Which kind of challenged the status quo of having standalone group health insurances that a lot of people today have. We took a shot at it and said, listen, we will create a comprehensive healthcare program, right? And making it affordable by making it India's first and only monthly subscription-based platform, right? And I'm sure a lot of HR professionals out here would, be surprised that, when did healthcare become from a yearly kind of a concept to a monthly kind of a concept. We have impacted over 1,600 companies since our launch in July of 2020, working with right from large enterprises to SMEs and even small companies as big as 3 people. We have basically created a wave of change in an HR person's life by giving them the entire digital dashboard from where they could actually control this entire program and no longer have to send Excel sheets to their vendors, right? We actually participated as a partner to them. And believe me, we have seen a drop in the organizations that work with us when it came to the great resignation. Typically in startups, the attrition rates have been almost at 50%. Our partners have reduced that rate to about 15 to 18% now. And one of the key important was that our app was used as an engagement platform by the HRs, because we did a lot of webinars on health and wellness, on mental wellness, right? Some of the things that were very crucial and contextual at the time of the lockdown. And with a monthly membership and the ability to add your own family members, because not every organization is able to kind of add their family members. Ability to add family members on a monthly basis became a boon for them, because that gave them a financial security, a security when it came to the health of their family members, right? And the best part was that, during this great resignation in the first lockdown, you would have noticed that so many people had to let go of their, team members. Ours is the only solution in India which allows a team member to continue their healthcare membership, irrespective whether they are employed with their company or not, giving them a gift of healthcare from their company for a lifetime. I can speak a lot, but I'm sure that Samir and
Samir
would like to comment.
Yeah. No, thank you, Dr. Runa and Kulin. That was really inspiring. I'm surely going to reach out to you soon for some thoughts that I have of my own. I think, like Kulin said, that they are a COVID baby or COVID founded company. While we've been a 2-decade-old IoT company and we've been doing IoT for healthcare, IoT for automotives for a very, very long time now. I think during COVID, we kind of launched a product, conceived, created, and launched a product. We've been seeing the ads of it during this program also, which is called Clarity AI. Zooms and Teams and Google Meets of the world, what they did was, right now when a lot of us are sitting in this call, we've got this virtual background behind us, right? So it basically, what does this background does? It anonymizes my location, right? So whether I'm sitting in a pub or I'm sitting at a railway station or in my home, I can have the choice of my background and not tell you where I am. However, what this did not do was it did not take away the background noise of my kids playing, or the whistle in the kitchen going off, or the car honking. So you could not take away that noise or the cacophony around you. Clarity AI, you saw the demo, you saw the ad, it exactly does that. So, we've launched this right in the middle of the pandemic, where it sits quietly on your laptops, whether you have a Windows or a Mac. And it's an overlay, obviously, on Zooms and Teams of the world, because it has been created keeping in mind what is it that the Zoom and Team Google Meet is not able to filter out. And this potentially has been one of the most important things that we could have launched from an employee or a student perspective. Today we are catering to large institutions, schools, colleges, everybody who's working from home. we are also going ahead and working with a lot of device manufacturers, which is whether it is laptops or tablets, so that the entire ecosystem or the entire experience of working from remote is almost becoming like you're sitting out in your own office cabin. So I think from an HR perspective, I was talking to an HR head earlier in Bombay the other day, and he said that probably the highest ROI investment, this comes at at the cost of a cup of a coffee. If we can invest this kind of money from an employee's productivity perspective, the highest return that we've seen is on this one, because it suddenly takes away the entire cacophony and noise, and the productivity levels of the employees goes up. So yeah, and Srinivas, I'm going to reach out to you for that camera for sure. It doesn't do anything about this light and camera thing. So we have discussions to do. So that's what we've done to keep ourselves relevant, to make lives a little better. And it's definitely a great opportunity, to change this ecosystem for a long time to come. Dr. Una, thank you so much for having me here.
How amazing. So I would like to close my this conversation with you by congratulating you. What kind of beautiful ideas you have put forward. So each one of you deserve a huge round of applause for actually thinking about people. Innovating, coming out with healthcare, coming out with noise clarity, with a beautiful experience, with providing amenities, providing experience in our digital platform. And super congratulations to PhD CCI for bringing in such beautiful people under one roof. And in fact, you're yourself doing a lot of innovation. You're using StreamYard. So I could see as constant change of the stage and putting each speaker on a virtual experience of a stage. But none other than these kind of innovation could give us experience and forget about the beauty of on ground. I think all of you are doing marvelous job of giving us those experience in a hybrid and an online experience. So once again, thank you and super congratulations. Keep this journey, keep exciting people, keep disrupting the environment, and keep contributing, and of course share your knowledge in such platform. Thanks to you. Thank you so much. And now going back to Jitendra.
Thank you so much, Runa.
Thank you, Dr. Runa, for moderating this session very, very professionally and to the time. We have Mr. Jitendra Gupta. Mr. Gupta is the co-chair of HRIR Committee of PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I request Mr. Gupta to kindly give the concluding remarks and vote of thanks. Over to you, Mr.
Thank you from one Jitendra to another. PhD, I think, now has a new full form, that PhD is like PhD in Corporate Content of India. In an hour's time, you can give a PhD on any subject. The last 1.5 hours we have spent on the remote working. I think the best of brains have shared their ideas, and everybody is an informed person now. Since I am a lawyer, I'll be failing in my responsibility if I do not touch upon some of the legal aspects of it, which will add to the subject and complete it in its way. While this COVID period happened and the work from home happened, it is also the same time when the government of India has also come up with various labor codes, which are yet at different stages of implementation. So as the PhD chamber and other stakeholders can also send the representation to the government how to include the work from home in the remote working, how will they fit into the various labor codes? Because otherwise we are going to have certain challenges. Many of the laws require the statutory records of the employees and the labor to be filled. Now, how are we going to do the statutory records, where there are manual records or the scope of manipulation is there? So how the government is going to handle? Then another issue which we are going to face in remote is the security and the privacy issues. In an organization, you will have best of your firewalls and secure systems, but it may not be possible at your employee's place where he may be working from a normal Wi-Fi, or maybe using a Wi-Fi as somebody said that he went to a hotspot and used. So what will happen is it will create the issues for the security and the data privacy. and then also the individual safety and security of the worker, whether the laws will apply when the person is working from home. If some accident happens at his home, then the implication of Employee Compensation Act or even a POSH Act or other acts, how much the employer will be responsible, because technically it may be interpreted that when a person is working from a remote place, he is on workplace. So that aspect is to be there. Then whether the employee needs to be compensated for the additional expense they will be bearing on their home to create that workplace. And then when we'll go into the hybrid mode, when we will reduce the workforce from everybody online to some offline and some online, then it may also create an issue. There should be a parameter as to who will be on online and who will be on offline. Otherwise, we may be flooded with litigations on discrimination, and lawyers like me will benefit that why some person has been put on online and some on offline mode. Then state laws, when somebody is working from the confines of their home, then different states may have different laws with respect to minimum wages and other aspects. Which state law will prevail? And then now we are also having state enactments like the Haryana Local Employment Act. So that aspect will be there. And finally, when you are only working from a remote place and not fraternizing and meeting the people physically, it may have its own challenges on the mental health of the workman also. So how are we going to address those issues? So I can go on and on. Since we've not discussed the challenges, I think it was incumbent on me as the co-chair and as well as a lawyer to discuss some of these. So with those words, I compliment PhD and all the panelists, and thank you for such a wonderful session.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta, for also letting us know the legal implications of working from home also. That is equally important, because ultimately HR managers or HR specialists, they understand about the macros, but there are a lot of micro things also that needs to be understood along with the macro part. Thank you very much for sharing your perspective. So we are equally thankful to our webinar partner, APJ Satya University, Clarity, then the support partners by Haryana State Board of Technical Education, DS Group, PTI, Logitech, APL Apollo, ITC Hotels, JK Organization, Insurity, and A Technos for partnering with us for this very, very pertinent webinar. And also thankful to all the distinguished speakers, panelists, our leadership for sparing your valuable time and sharing your perspective with all of us. I think we have become wiser by today in terms of understanding the HR nuances, and equally thankful to all of our distinguished delegates who have joined from different parts of India and also globally also for this very important webinar. We look forward to your feedback on the CHRO conclave, and in fact we look forward to have you again in our next series of this important conclave. Thank you very much indeed. Namaskar and Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
very
much.
for your time. Lovely to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you all the participants for being with us for such